If you're a golfer and you're complaining about your low back, I suggest you not only take a look at your lumbar section or your low back, but take a look at the stuff above and below that joint. I'm Coach Rich Thurman, and I'm gonna tell you today why my golf clients have no complaints about their low back. Before we get started, make sure you smash the subscribe button so you never miss a post from me again. So oftentimes golfers will come in and they're complaining about stiffness of the low back or issues they're having with their low back. And after a full assessment, I'll give them some feedback on what's going on with their body specifically to help guide them through and help them understand some of the things that they might want to improve on, and then we give them a plan. In general though, when we're looking at what's going on with a golfer, we have to have a considerable amount of thoracic rotation as we move into the backswing, and then we have to have control of that rotation as we move through our full range of motion and finish through our swing. So if you don't have adequate rotation in the stuff above the lumbar spine, sometimes those demands can get transferred downward into the lumbar spine. So now you're asking the lumbar spine to do some rotation that it might not be comfortable doing, and the lumbar spine is not built for rotation. It's built for other movements, flexion and extension mainly, but not rotation. So if we're placing demands for rotation on the lumbar spine there, that could be producing a little bit of an issue. The other thing that might be contributing is lack of rotation at the hip. So if you notice when you go into the backswing, it requires a considerable amount of internal rotation of your back hip. And as you move through and you finish your swing, it requires a considerable amount of internal rotation on this hip. So a certain amount of external rotation here, internal rotation here, and then as you come through, external rotation here, internal rotation here. If your hips don't rotate well, then that lack of rotation can also be a contributing factor. So better hip, better thoracic spine rotation should help you a little bit. Every little bit counts. So lumbar spine should be able to flex and extend well, rotation above, rotation below well, and that's at least a starting point for where we can start to look at addressing our body. Oftentimes it is lack of ability to move that we need to address. And if we can improve range of motion, then we can strengthen that range of motion. If we don't have the range of motion, then we can't even strengthen that space. So there's 3 exercises that I like to use with all of my golf clients with regards to rotation of the spine. But the very first thing I do is I address flexion and extension of the spines. Flexion and extension provides you the basis for rotation of the thoracic spine. So I often start my clients out with cat-cow. Simple, effective, flexion, and extension. Better flexion provides us better ability to rotate. So all of my golf clients receive cat-cow, but then we take it one step further and we go into spinal segmentation. You can check out spinal segmentation in one of my other videos. The next thing we do with the spine is thoracolumbar cars. Thoracolumbar cars are a great way to get through all of the various motions of the spine. This is just bringing awareness to the tissues. So this isn't the point in which we're adding more range of motion or we're trying to expand range and capacity. We're just trying to bring more awareness to the tissue to start out with. So we bring the hands across the chest, we move into flexion, we rotate through that thoracic spine, we laterally flex, we extend, rotate all the way over to the opposite side, laterally flex, and rotate back through. You can do that in both different directions. Check out some of the videos that I have in my spine section on my channel to find out how to do that more effectively. Next, we'll want to address the hips. And with the hips, we'll start with wanting to bring awareness to the joint itself. So first thing we'll do is hip cars. We'll start by bringing the leg across the body, going into external rotation and flexion, abduction, rotating into internal rotation and extending, bringing the knee to join the other knee, and then we'll extend back, externally rotate, sweep back through, adduct the way we came. Cars are an easy way to bring awareness to the joint to begin with, and once we've brought awareness to the joint to begin with, we can begin to start thinking about internal and external rotation of the joint. One of the ways I like to start addressing internal rotation on my golf clients is to get them as close to the position that they would be in for golf. So I like to get them in a split kneeling position, because that way the femur is in a position similar to where they would be for standing. But I'm trying to get internal rotation of this bone here. So I'll take my instep of my foot and I'll place it against a box or a wall or wherever I'm in front of, and I'll move down into internal rotation of this hip. And now I'm into internal rotation of this hip. I can stretch this tissue here, and I'm going to hold that stretch for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm going to do a Pales contraction, which is an isometric, driving the instep of my foot into the block, box, wall, whatever I'm up against. I'm going to ramp that up to my maximum effort, hold that for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'm going to reverse that, trying to take the foot away from the edge of the box, so take the instep away from the edge of the box, squeezing this outer stuff on my hip, my internal rotator stuff, and I'm going to squeeze that as hard as I can, maximally, and then I'm going to relax. Okay, that's one of the ways where I help my clients address a lack of internal rotation and help them try to expand that rotation. So we 2-minute hold, we do our Pales contraction and then our rails contraction. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out some of the videos that I have on my page in the hip mobility section, which breaks down a lot of different ways in which you can do Pales and rails for hip internal rotation. In some cases, my client may be lacking external rotation, and so one of the setups I like to use for external rotation is standing on a slanted bench. Other than that, you can be side-lying. There's some other positions and setups that I have available here on my page, on my channel. You can check the hip training section or the hip mobility section, and I have tons of videos there which can inform you on different ways we can set up for this. But I like to use a slanted bench here because it gives me an opportunity to find a stretch in the back of this hip here. And now at this point here, I cannot lift off. So this is my end point of external rotation, but I'm going to go about 10 to 15 degrees further. So in order to do that, I'm going to take my hip here and I'm going to just shift it just a little bit. And I'm going to tilt my body just a little bit away. Okay, so I'm now increased the rotation of my hip joint. More external rotation here, and I'm going to hold that stretch for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm going to begin to drive this leg, the outer part of this foot, into the bench. So I'm trying to do this motion here. As I drive and try to do that motion there, I'm driving all that outer tissue of my hip, ramping up to my greatest effort. And when I do, I'm going to hold that for 10 to 15 seconds. And then I'm going to do my rails contraction, which is trying to lift this leg off. And obviously it's not going to lift off because I'm beyond my end range of motion, but I'm contracting all this tissue here on the inner side of the joint. Maximal effort, hold for 10 seconds, and relax. Those are just a few things that I do with my golf clients specifically that help them expand capacity for movement. Once they've expanded capacity for movement, all the things that they do come easier. So we can expand capacity, strengthen those ranges, and then all the activities they want to do, they just fill right into that space. Of course, we address their lumbar spine as well, and you can check out some of my videos on training the low back in the spinal mobility section of my channel. If you found this video useful, please smash the like button, share it with somebody who golfs, and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss a post from me again.